What's up, folks? The King is here, folks, back at you with this video, making a video about 5 things you must know and will know by the end of this video about multifamilies, rental properties, investing. And before I go ahead and get started, what we're doing here is actually we got a tint on the property because we were suspicious of some termites, and we find them, we kill them. No termites on my property.
I think I'm playing chess, I see a king, I'm at his neck. I'm 3 steps ahead at every move, now that's a check. Yes, they wanna know my secret, it's because I never slept. All my nightmares of me at 40, life's a wreck. See my dad, he in debt, and my mom, she upset. That's way back when 408 on Seminole was the address. I saw things I shouldn't have, though I love the family to death. Way back then it was a mess, we was living check to check. Now my shirts are getting pressed.
The number one thing that you must know, all of the income that's coming from the property will be going back into the property. Now, assuming you got $4,000 coming in a month from this fourplex that you own, perhaps, right? Now, all of the money that comes in after you pay your mortgage payment, after you pay the expenses, if there is net profit left, most likely it will be going back into the property, because if you're anything like me, we buy opportunities. We buy things that we can maybe improve in one way or another in order for us to sell it for more in the future. Even if you're holding it, I hope you do have an exit strategy for that asset that you just purchased. Now, if you bought a property that's in a great condition, you're still gonna let that money, that positive cash flow, build up in the account for bad days, for rainy days, in case you've ever needed it. You cannot be zeroed out on a rental property that you just owned by the end of every single month, because at some point, if a tenant or 2 or 3 or 4 move out, your ass will end up in bankruptcy, and you never want to be there. So that money, let it sit in the account or go back into the property, and don't make your car payments with it. Build it up. Let's go. Shit. Come take a look. Come take a look. We had to fix this plumbing issue today. We had a leak. So this piece right here had to be changed, and also a part of the pipe had to be cut and replaced because we had this water leak. And this is the water meter. And that means this property is sewer, not septic. And that's a good thing. Let's do this. Number 2, every time or the one time you're buying that multifamily, you need to at least make sure whatever is your mortgage payment on the property, you at least have 6 times that in that one bank account for the property, I would say, before purchasing the property. And again, this is my opinion. Some may disagree with it, but trust me, you need at minimum 3 to 6 months in reserves of worth of at least the mortgage payment for that property if you're buying it, because this day you cannot pay it because of tenants paying you. You do not want to lose the property, because if you buy it with everything you've got and you have no reserves to save the property with a mortgage payment if needed, your ass will end up just right here. And it's disgusting. Let's go.
Number 3?
A very important one. Let me tell you this. Your property manager is as important, if not important, than the property that you just purchased. Because I don't give a shit how good is the deal that you just bought. If your property manager, or yourself if you're managing it, cannot manage it, that deal will go south. Because if it's not managed well, then where's the money gonna go? How is the money gonna get handled? Who's gonna evict the tenant if needed? Who's gonna collect rent if the tenant had needed somebody to go pick it up? Or I don't know, plumbing, something, leak. Who's gonna do all that stuff if you didn't have that dedicated person to do it? I don't know what's gonna happen to the property, because if you end up doing that, your property's gonna derail. It's gonna start looking bad. Then you're gonna get someone like me to buy it from you because you are a bad landlord. Now go ahead and be a good one and get a good property manager. Let's do this.
Joe need to pick up stuff in unit 1, and he need to pick up stuff in unit 3. Then he need to finish the outside.
Okay, we need to make sure this is done, because the units need to be done and rented like in no time, okay? Just please make sure you do it. I will call Joe when I'm done, okay?
Excellent.
All right, thank you, bye.
Thank you.
Now that's property management, which is the property manager. Man, Zach, what are you looking looking at, man? Let me give them number 4 already. And number 4, you must calculate for vacancies when you buy the property. You cannot buy a property and assume it's going to be 100% vacant at all the time when you purchase the property, especially in the first 12 months if you had to do something for the property. And this goes to number 1, have reserves to handle you and your property. You must calculate at minimum a 5% vacancy rate to know that if at any time somebody moves out, you are secured. You must calculate for vacancy. No property is 100% occupied all the time. If it is, that means your rents are way too low. And if there is a vacancy, if it's up to 5%, that should be normal. But at all times, if your property is over occupied, always occupied, you're asking for too little, probably because you can't maintain your property well, you cannot get top dollar. But if you do, you will. And at all times, calculate for 5% vacancy. Let's do this. I don't think they're paying rent. Have you guys ever seen a chick get evicted? And number 5. And number 5 would be, guys, you must calculate your property expenses properly. Expenses overall. If you got a rehab that you got to do to the property before you come in, if there is something you got to fix. I mean, I had to do some electrical work. I had to do something. I had to spend some money on it, and I must run my expenses right. Now, that's one thing, but there is also expenses, such as the expenses that were on the property before I even bought it, like a water bill, electricity bill, all these bills on the property, the tax bill at the end of the year. I must calculate for all of that properly. And I gotta tell you this, especially when it comes to property taxes, if Joe Blow bought their property in 1973 for $70,000 and they pay $5,000 a year in taxes, and you're buying it in 2020 for $250,000, your property taxes will not be the same. So if you run your expenses based on the expenses, only the expenses the seller is giving you at the time, and you think they're gonna be identical by the time you own it, you ran your numbers wrong, and you might have to break even, if not lose money. You need to understand those property expenses must be ran right, and I highly suggest you sit down with somebody who knows more than you when it comes to that. Possibly me, if you can. If you want to reach out to my Instagram on my DM, I'll be able to help you. And if not, don't buy that property until you run those expenses. If it's not me, run it with someone who knows more than you. Run your expenses right, and that's number 5. Let's do this. All right, folks, so this video has came to an end. So those are just very quick 5 pointers you want to look into when you are buying a rental property. All I am saying is just be particular with those numbers and expenses and everything that you got to look at, just to make sure this property becomes a successful business, not a failing one. Now, again, my name is Jalal, aka on Instagram at the King of Miami Real Estate. And don't forget to subscribe and watch my videos, because the next ones are even better. And if you like anything that I did say, make sure you comment below. Let's do this.